I'm Stuart Zechman, and I've been hearing the phrase false equivalence being used lately in ways I've never heard before. You remember what false equivalence is, right? It's when someone points out what appears to be a similarity between two things that are in reality not equivalent at all. And I'm pretty darn familiar with that expression because during the 2000s, especially, the National Press Corps would put their centrist biases on display by manufacturing false equivalence all the time. Remember that? The centrist media would routinely couch its reporting in language like the extreme rhetoric from both liberals and conservatives in the debate over the Iraq War became even more heated than usual this week as Ann Coulter's new book, Treason, Liberal Treachery, from the Cold War to the War on Terrorism, topped the New York Times bestseller list. And we'd say, whoa, hey, hold on a minute there. We movement liberals are saying that in addition to it being weirdly immoral to invade a country for basically no reason and then spend the next decade occupying hostile foreign lands, it's a stupendously bad idea in policy terms because it makes America less safe to bankrupt ourselves whilst inspiring more and more people around the world to dedicate themselves to blowing us up than would otherwise. The movement conservatives, on the other hand, were saying at the same time that by definition, liberals are traitors during wartime. Also, Joe McCarthy was right, and McCarthyism was a good thing because liberals really are traitors who would love to sell out our country during a time of war because they don't like America or Americans. Ann Coulter would say things on television and in print like, and I'm quoting here, quote, liberals have a preternatural gift for always striking a position on the side of treason. And everyone says liberals love America too. No, they don't. Unquote. And that was June of 2003, by the way. It was just a few months into the Iraq War and just a year and a half after 9/11. And that's what movement conservatives were saying about their fellow Americans, that we were trying to betray our country just because of who we are, that we're bad and they're good. Now, anybody can see that these two sets of arguments are not the same. They are just not equivalent. That would be false equivalence to describe the occupying foreign lands as a bad idea, and liberals are by definition traitors. It's false equivalence. And so it became a pretty widely accepted critique of the centrist media on the left for good reason. But like I said, I've noticed something. Now, false equivalence means something else entirely. When I've said, for example, that primetime MSNBC sounds sometimes like the same partisan propaganda channel devoted to the political empowerment of a single party we liberal Democrats used to mock, I'm now told that I'm engaging in false equivalence. And when I've said that Eric Holder's declaration, based on a secret legal memo, that when it comes to the government assassinating American citizens, due process doesn't necessarily mean judicial process, when I've said that that sounds like John Yoo at a 24 all-night DVD watching drinking party, I'm now told that I'm engaging in false equivalence. It now means, basically, that when Democrats do the same thing that Republicans do, pointing out those facts is engaging in false equivalence because, although it may appear to be similar or even identical policy regimes, Democrats are basically good and have people's interests at heart, while Republicans are nasty, evil racists and misogynists who are motivated purely by hatred of liberals like us. See? According to this view, Democrats in power can't possibly be like Republicans, equivalent to Republicans, even when they do identical things, because by definition, liberals are good, and by definition, conservatives are bad. But when Paul Krugman accurately writes that Mitt Romney's, quote, signature achievement was a health reform identical in all important respects to the national reform signed into law by President Obama 4 years later, unquote, it just can't be false equivalence to call the Affordable Care Act Romney Care, even if that makes some Democrats mad to hear it described that way. You know, we liberal Democrats like to say that we're the reality-based community. If that term is to continue to have any meaning at all and not become the tragic joke of the 2012 election cycle, we movement liberals should probably spend less time yelling about false equivalence between Democrats and Republicans and more time pointing out the actual equivalence between some Democratic and Republican policies, no matter which party happens to be in charge at the time. I'm Stuart Zechman, and this has been the Z-Files.